Welcome to our tutorial about SQL databases. In this tutorial, we're going to create a simple database. Let's right-click, move this a little bit, and add New Item. Now let's select Service-Based Database. We'll give it a name, Employees, and click Add. Here I'll leave the default dataset name for now. Click Finish. What we've done is create an empty database and also a dataset. Let's go to the Server Explorer tab. Let's expand my newly created database. I see a number of folders right here. One of the folders that we're interested in is Tables. Currently, we don't have any tables. That's why there's no plus sign next to it. Let's right-click and select Add New Table. Here we're going to name our columns, define the data types, set some rules about what the columns can store, and also define if the fields are allowed to contain a null value or nothing. The first column name will be Employee ID. Here we'll define the data type that we can store in this column. I'm going to choose integer, and we won't allow null values in this column. We don't want any null values because the data in this column will serve as our primary key. The second column we'll call first name. For the data type, let's select varchar 50. This stands for variable characters with a maximum of 50 characters in the string. Next, we'll have a last name column. The same data type should do, varchar 50. This column won't be allowed to have any null values. The next column will be address. Let's use the same data type, but we're going to change the maximum to 300 instead of 50. That's more appropriate for an address, which usually requires a larger number of characters. We're going to add 2 more columns. We'll call one of them Start Date, and we'll select the Date/Time data type. Our last column will be hourly wage. This data type will be money. And we're done creating our first table, so let's click Save. We're prompted for a name. Let's type in Employees. And click OK. Now we've got our first table available appearing in the Server Explorer panel. When I expand the plus sign next to the folder, I see all the columns I just created. One thing I forgot to set was the identity specification property for my primary key column, Employee ID. Let's go ahead and do that now. We need to turn it on to yes. The identity increment and seed are fine. Now we've made some changes to our table, so we've got to save again. Another thing I wanted to show you. When you right-click, you get a contextual menu that lets you insert and delete columns, as well as set a primary key and a number of other options. At this point, we're finished defining our table. Now let's learn how to enter data into our table. We right-click on the table and select Show Table Data. Our data appears here in Table View, and we're able to enter data now. As you can see, I can resize the columns as needed. Let's enter some names. First name Bob. Tab. Last name Dill. Tab to get to the next field. Address 123 Main Street. Tab over to the start date. Let's say he started on December 12th, 2007. Hourly wage $45. As you see, every cell where I've entered data displays a red exclamation mark. Let's mouse over it for an explanation. It means the cell has been changed, but the data hasn't been committed yet. This means that the data hasn't been saved yet. Let's hit the Tab key again. The changes are now committed to the database or saved. As well, the number 1 has been assigned as the employee ID to our first record. Now let's see what happens if we enter an incorrect value in one of our columns. For example, instead of 12 months, let's enter a 13th month here. I get a warning message stating that the value is invalid. It gives us the location of the field, row 1, column 5. Click OK. We've entered data in an inappropriate format. Let's correct it. We'll start them on July 12th, 2007. We press Tab, and again we have the red exclamation mark letting us know that the cell has changed but hasn't yet been saved to the database. We press Tab, down to the next row. Let's fill up one more row. Alan, Tab. He lives with Bob on 123 Main Street. His start date was July 7th, 2007. Tab again, and he makes a little less at $34 an hour. Now you may be wondering, we've entered all this data, how do we save it? For example, on an Excel spreadsheet, you enter your data and then you click on the Save icon to save your file. Unlike in your spreadsheet, once the exclamation mark is gone from your cell, the change is actually committed to the database. As soon as the red exclamation mark is gone, the change is actually saved already. There's no additional step or action you have to take to make sure that your data gets saved. Let's talk about how to delete a row from a table. Just select it and press Delete on your keyboard. Visual Studio asks us for confirmation. If I click Yes, the data will be permanently deleted from the database. Or I can simply right-click and select Delete as well. Now we know how to create a simple database. We can create a table inside the database, and we're also able to input data into that table. This concludes our first tutorial on an SQL database.